Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 17 of the WeCOACH Podcast on Wisp Sports. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with some of the best and brightest women coaches, leaders, and industry experts in the world of sports for fun and inspiring conversations. I'm your host, Megan Kahn, Executive Director of WeCOACH. This podcast is a co-production of WeCOACH and Wisp Sports. WeCOACH has become the premier nonprofit organization committed to recruiting, retaining, and advancing women coaches of all sports and levels. Through our programming, events, and engaged community, we are empowering female coaches and inspiring the next generation of young women who dream of following in their footsteps. Speaking of young women and following in their footsteps, I'm excited to talk with today's guest, Ann Walker, a friend, a teammate, and one I've had the privilege of working alongside. For the past 3 years, Ann has served as the Director of Events for WeCOACH, but boasts an impressive resume of 30 years of experience as a collegiate coach and athletic administrator. On the cusp of her retirement, we have the privilege of sitting down with her for today's episode. Welcome, Ann, to the WeCOACH Podcast.
Oh, hello, Megan, and I am thrilled to be on it, so I really appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. If we were only sitting in a coffee shop, you'd have a paper by your side, nice cup of coffee, there'd probably be jazz music on, but, you know, we'll settle for you in the Pacific Northwest.
I guess it's the second best alternative, but sitting in a coffee shop with you with some jazz and maybe a chai tea latte sounds fantastic.
The good days, but we're here now, which is a good day. So I'm excited. I know our community adores you and what you've done for the WeCOACH coaches over the years. And I'm excited to talk about your career journey and what comes next in retirement.
Sounds fantastic. Let's get rolling.
I do have to say, though, and this is going to totally age both of us, but we have known each other for, about 25 years. For those that don't know, Ann was an assistant coach at Creighton University and coached one of my former high school teammates. Let's give a shout out to Jess Likes, right?
Yeah, Jess was great. That does kind of age us, though, Megan. That was back in the mid-90s, I believe.
We were kids. We are kids. I mean, come on. Kid at heart counts for something.
That's right.
Speaking of kids, let's talk about you as a child. You grew up in a very large family, one of two girls, and you had 4 brothers and sisters. So I can only imagine you were outside right along your brothers as they were playing probably every sport imaginable.
You know, it's interesting because, I did have 4 brothers, and they're all very athletic. All 4 of them played a college sport. And you would think that my dad, knowing that, I had 2 older brothers and a brother that was just a year younger than me, that he would just have me do my thing. But he encouraged me he treated me like a boy. He relished in the fact that I grew up a tomboy, and my mom didn't mind either. All boys in the neighborhood. I grew up around boys, and he really was instrumental in both my parents of, you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want. And that was in, the late 60s, early 70s. In fact, I was the only girl on an all boys baseball team, in the early 70s. And then my dad encouraged me to play football in 7th grade in 1977. So, I really feel like I was fortunate in that manner. I didn't even know what Title IX was, but my parents both were really instrumental in pushing me and encouraging me and supporting me to kind of be one of the boys and play sports.
Did you grow up thinking you were going to quarterback the New York Giants?
I actually wanted to be a professional athlete, and quarterback the New York Giants would have been just fine as long as Michael Strahan was right there on my team.
Actually, I think I have heard you say you thought you were going to be a professional baseball player.
Yeah, a professional athlete of any kind. I loved baseball growing up. My dad put a basketball hoop in our driveway when I was probably 3. And I just I kind of did the dream of being a professional athlete.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine those games of one-on-one in that driveway.
My dad always won. My brothers always won.
Pick on the little one. Let's talk about your basketball career. You went on in college and you played basketball and softball. Is that correct?
That's correct. Two-sport athlete. I was recruited to play volleyball as well, but couldn't do it.
Why stop at 2?
Yeah, I would probably do it if I had to do it over. I would try all 3.
When you were growing up, did you play for any female coaches, or were you of the era where it was primarily male coaches?
It was all male coaches. Obviously male coaches on the baseball team, football team, and throughout my high school. I think we had a female volleyball coach maybe my senior year, but I played 6 sports in high school and all male coaches, 2 sports in college, both male coaches. So yeah, growing up, that's pretty much all I ever knew.
Well, and maybe it is a credit to your parents and your father, like you said, that told you could do anything, because without even seeing a female coach, how did you go into coaching?
That is a really good question, because I think it is vitally important today that females have strong female role models. And I guess growing up, I didn't really, because I didn't even know what Title IX was. I was young. I guess at that time in the 70s, it didn't really resonate with me because I was doing what I wanted to do. But I think just the love of sport and being around it my entire life, I knew, especially when I got through college, I knew that's where my passion was, that I wanted to give back to what I loved.
And you went into coaching right out of college, is that correct?
I did. Boy, if I could, as Cher says, if I could turn back time, it was, I thought I knew it all. I was 24, took over a basketball team that had 5 seniors on the team. So not very far removed from me age-wise. And I really tried to extend that gap by kind of being a quote-unquote hard ass, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I really wish that I could go back to those days because I kind of thought I knew it all at 24. I'm 54 and still don't know it all. But, I wanted, that's where my passion was. I couldn't wait to get that first coaching job. And I actually got the opportunity in August of 1989 for $4,000 a year. And loved every minute of it and thought that's what I would do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And I've heard you talk about, you just alluded to it there, that coaching was some of the best years of your life. Expand on that. What does that mean to you now, looking back on it?
Honestly, if I could, my greatest passion and the thing that I enjoyed most in all my work was, and probably still is, coaching. And I just thought I would do it for the rest of my life. Once I got into it, boy, there was never a day, Megan, that when I went to bed at night, I couldn't wait to get up the next morning knowing that I was going to get to do what I loved. And that was coaching. Everything that went into it, the leading of a team, the teaching, everything. It was my passion. So, unfortunately that was taken away, but I learned a lot in my years, especially that first year of head coaching. I learned a great deal.
What did you learn later in your career, either as a coach, and we're going to talk a little bit about your coaching journey itself, or as an administrator, that would have served you well in that first year or two?
Wow. A lot, truly. I would say some of the things that really resonate, trust your gut. The biggest thing probably was don't try to tackle everything. You can't be Superwoman. I thought I could do it all. And, part of that's my personality as well. Type A and head coach kind of go together. But I always thought that I could do everything, fix everything, be everything. And the females on the team came first, and I just kind of, a mother figure. And I think a lot of coaches can resonate with that. But I dealt with a lot of issues in my first head coaching job. I had a player get pregnant, 2 players attempt suicide, a player get raped. And it was like, wow, at 24, 25, 26, 27, you don't know how to deal with those type of things when you're first, have them in front of you. But I did. I tried to tackle it all on my own. And so that was a big lesson that I tell young coaches today, don't try to tackle things on your own. Ask for help. And that was something I was really bad at a younger age, but have learned. So that would be probably number one. Ask for help. It's okay to not always have the answers. Find and develop positive relationships with people that you can trust. That's really, really important. Communicate. Can't stress that enough with your team, your staff, the parents, administration, all your support resources, and your partner if you have one. So those are kind of the main gist of what I learned in my first head coaching job.
Well, and as females, I think many of the things you just touched on are probably areas where, as a general whole, women tend to struggle, right? We think we can do everything and we want to tackle everything, and we're maybe afraid of asking for help because it's a sign of weakness. So those are some great nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's talk about, you went from a head coach of basketball and softball at NAI school to assistant coach at Creighton in the very strong Missouri Valley Conference. So that is quite a leap. Talk about that journey, head coach to assistant coach, and what that was like.
Yeah, and there was a 2-year stop in between there. I got my master's at the University of Iowa, a proud Hawkeye. But it is a transition. And when I was interviewing for the assistant coach at Creighton, Connie Ori at the time, she was the head coach, and she asked me, are you going to be okay moving from a head coach to an assistant coach? That's all you've known, is being the leader and the decision maker. And how are you going to make that transition? And honestly, I was ready. I'm also the type of person that really likes to help people. And so I assured her, and I think I did a good job of it in my 3 years there. I assured her that, listen, I kind of want to take a step back. I don't want to be the one making all the decisions all the time and have that stress. And I wanted to learn from somebody else. And not only did I learn from her, but I learned from the other assistant coach at the time, Jim Flannery. So it was, being a head and being an assistant are two completely different things. I ate a lot better and slept a lot better as an assistant coach. But there's give and take there. You also give up a lot of the control. So it was a big transition. I had mentally prepared myself for that transition, and really embraced it. And my whole reason for being an assistant was to learn. And so I went into it with that attitude. But by the time 3 years was over, I was ready to tackle that head job again.
Yeah, I'm sure it was very eye-opening and gave you a little bit different lens on coaching as a whole. What made you a great assistant coach to Connie?
I think being loyal is huge. I felt like I was loyal. I would do anything. I wanted to ease the burden, because I had been a head coach. Even though it was at the NAI level, you're still a head coach and you still have the same stress. So I had been a head coach. I had walked in her shoes. I knew the stress that she was under and the pressure and all the things that were being thrown at her. So having walked that path, I felt as though there were times that I knew what she needed from me, even without asking. And so I felt just sometimes being a self-starter, asking her where she needed me to step up or step in. And I think, again, just being a head coach and being in her shoes allowed me to have the presence to help her whenever she needed in whatever she needed and know what she was going through.
Yeah, being able to anticipate some of those needs probably in a much more empathetic and compassionate way after having been a head coach.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you were there 3 years, and then you said you were ready to become a head coach again. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, I had just started my first 2 years. I didn't even look for another job. And then by the midway through the third year, actually, it was probably at the end of the season of the third year, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready. And I started looking for jobs, and an opportunity arose at Minnesota State. At the time, it was Mankato State. And there was all kinds of reasons why that was attractive to me. It was Division II. At the time, it was in the best Division II conference in the country. In that conference was North Dakota State, South Dakota State. I mean, some real, who are all Division I now. It was in Mankato. So my sister lived in Minneapolis. And when I went up for my interview, the people were great. I was brought in by the AD that's not there anymore, and I was just ready. It felt right. Again, looking back, if I could turn back time and do some things over in the interview process, there were things that I would have gotten more clarity on, most specifically scholarships. But you learn, and those are the experiences that I have gone through. I'm hoping when I talk with younger coaches that I can give them some nuggets that'll help move them in a positive direction. So I was ready. I was ready for that head coaching job, and was in it for 6 years.
Well, it's refreshing to hear you say you were ready, because I think sometimes also one of the things we hear so often is that women tend not to feel like they're ready, or do we ever feel like we're ready, right? You sort of just got to jump both feet in and go for it.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot has to do with, and I've said it before, and I don't want to overuse this term, but boy, coaching was my passion, and it's all I ever, that's what I woke up wanting to do, is just make an impact. And I loved the game, and I loved working with young people. And you're right. I think you're absolutely right, Megan. Sometimes you feel like you're never ready, and sometimes you feel like you're always ready. And that's interesting, because I had an assistant coach who was my assistant for a long time, and she got an opportunity finally to be a head coach. And she says, "Am I ready?" And I said to her, "You know what? You're absolutely ready. Don't doubt yourself. The only difference is that you have been taking direction from somebody else, and now you are ready to lead a team, and you are ready to lead a staff." And sometimes, again, I think you have this doubt of, I'm never ready, but and I was fortunate to have 6 good years at Minnesota State, and again, learned a lot, mostly the trust your gut thing. I really wish that I would have done more of that.
And I know we've talked about this before, and when you look at the coaching landscape now and how much it's changed since you were a coach, I think you left in 2005. We'll talk about that in just a second. When you look at somebody like Muffet McGraw and the comments that she recently made in Tampa at the women's Final Four, and how that was heard not only around the women's basketball world, but around all sports, right? It really transcended any sport. It wasn't a matter about the sport. It was about women in general and women as leaders. What does that make you feel?
Oh, wow. I thought Muffet's comments were really powerful, and you're right. They were heard around the world. I had people who really weren't even in the college or sport landscape say something to me about Muffet's comments, and that they were, how powerful they were. And, it's great, because anytime I think somebody says, something that might be controversial, it really opens people's eyes. And wow, I think what she did was a lot of women in coaching kind of sat up and took notice. And I think she gave a lot of women that pedestal to say, hey, yeah, look at me. So she's a powerful role model, and talented. And I really feel as though what she said resounded. Megan, there was I think it was right around the time, there was an article in Forbes magazine called The Power of the Pack. Women who support women are more successful. And, Muffet talked about that. And she also talked about, of course, she said that she would only hire women coaches, but we need to reverse the stereotype that women don't support other women. And I think that's what she was trying to do. All kinds of research shows that women in particular benefit from collaboration, not from competition. And study after study shows women who support women are more successful in their area of work. And I think Muffet proves that. There's this thing called the shine theory. And it's the idea that when you help another woman rise, we all shine. And I like to kind of keep that in the back of my head.
I'm stealing that. I like that. I had not heard of the shine theory.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I love that. But we're going to get real here for a second, because I want to talk about your transition out of coaching. You were fired not once, but twice. And that ultimately led to your decision to leave the coaching industry for good. And then you transitioned into administration. So talk a little bit about what that was like for you to be fired.
Yeah, it took a long time for me to even tell somebody that wasn't aware of either situation that I was fired. That's just not something you go around bragging about. In my first coaching job that I alluded to back when I was 24, I had it for 4 years. And unfortunately, as some coaches experience today, a student athlete went to the AD and the president, it was a small college, and was able to say some really ludicrous stuff and get me fired. Unfortunately, at that time, again, young and not knowing where to turn, I thought my life was torn upside down. And, at that time, I didn't know where to turn. Again, thinking I could handle everything myself, but also not having the support or resources. And, back in 1993, had I known about an organization like WeCOACH or had access to an organization like WeCOACH, I think things would have been very different for me. Just having that support and resources available to help me through a situation like that. But it was unfortunate that a student athlete was able to have that type of power. And I know coaches are dealing with that even today, 30 years later. And in the second job that I had for 6 years, I came in under one athletic director and I left under another athletic director who came in. The AD I came in under after 4 years gave me another 4-year contract, and he retired and a new athletic director came in, and we didn't see eye to eye, and I was gone. Again, I think coaches around the country deal with those type of situations. And again, just not knowing what to do, where to turn. And that's when I ended up moving to Florida. And I knew Mike Marcil at the time. He was the commissioner of the Sunshine State Conference, and he offered me a position. So, yeah, I really feel in both those situations, and not just because I work for WeCOACH, but if I wouldn't had that type of an organization like WeCOACH available to rely on, I think I might still be coaching today.
But you're not, and we got you for the last 3 years. So, things happen for a reason. And you and I have talked about this so many times, but I think that's why you really bleed the passion for our important work.
Oh, without question. I mean, I was an athletic director when you called me 3 years ago. And I stepped away from that because I did, well, partly for a number of reasons. One, because, I'd known you for so long. and of course, that was kind of icing on the cake. But just getting to know the organization and believing in what it's about. After having gone through what I went through as a coach, I wanted to be able to be in a position to help other coaches in situations that similar to not only what I went through, but I know there are many other situations that female coaches are dealing with today. So I really wanted to be in a position to be able to give back. Just like when I got into coaching, I wanted to give back to student athletes. I started with WeCOACH because I wanted to give back to female coaches.
All sports, one voice, WeCOACH. Tune in to the voice of women coaches on the WeCOACH Podcast. This is Wisp Sports.
You're retiring here in a little over a month. Congratulations, by the way, and thank you for so much you've done for us and the entire community of our coaches and women in sports. Really, what comes next for you?
Sitting in a coffee shop with jazz playing and a chai tea latte. I have some personal things that I want to tend to that are family related and really devote some time to that. I will continue to do whatever I can for ex-colleagues of mine throughout the country that I'm still close with, coaches and admins, and help them in any way that I can from afar. And play a little bit of golf.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, work on my golf game. Have to buy a lot more balls because I'm going to lose a lot more balls because I'm going to play a lot more golf. But, I won't, even though I quit, quote unquote, retiring. I still want to be able to help out in any way that I can. And who knows, maybe someday I'll land back on a college campus.
Don't rule it out. I know you. You will not be able to stay away for long. But let's talk about, it's so true. Let's talk about being on a campus. The role, you alluded to some of the roles that you served at the Sunshine State Conference, at Nova Southeastern, locally, regionally, nationally on the committees you serve. Talk about some of those different roles. And not that we ever want to see females leaving coaching, but if they are going to leave coaching, we certainly want to help them have a strong transition into administration.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was tough. It was tough. I actually spent, when I was let go of coaching, oddly enough, the AD and I that I didn't see eye to eye, he came and said, you know what, you're organized, you're extremely loyal, you work very hard. We'd like to keep you on as an assistant AD in charge of fundraising. Well, fundraising was the last thing I wanted to do. And keep in mind, I didn't, I recently had been out of coaching, but I took it, and I took it for a number of reasons. One, it was a huge challenge. It was an area that I had no experience in. And I thought, you know what, no matter what the future holds for me, this can only help develop my quote unquote resume and what I'm able to give or get in the future for the next job, whatever that may be. So I spent 1 year as an assistant AD in charge of fundraising. And truth be told, in that 1 year, we started a women's sport only fundraising event for Minnesota State and raised almost $100,000. So that was really, I got to learn about friend raising really more than anything. And then that's when I moved down to Florida and was in the conference office as an assistant commissioner. And I worked with all the membership SWAs and helped in conducting championships. So that was new to me as well. and spent a year doing that. And one of the ADs in the member conferences reached out and said, hey, I'd like you to come be an assistant AD. So after a couple of years as an assistant AD at Nova Southeastern, I was moved into an associate AD. I was in charge of compliance, academic services, internal ops, anything he wanted to throw my way. Again, I can do it all, right? Superwoman. But it was invaluable. And I really had, at that point, I was like, okay, administration is probably where I'm going to be. I was 2 years removed from coaching, probably wasn't going to get back into it. Although I did kind of flirt with some opportunities. But I had, in my 4th year in administration, I'd resolved myself mentally and emotionally that administration was where I was going to be. That's where I was good. And I really had the mindset of, okay, I'm not coaching student athletes anymore. I'm coaching coaches, and I can still give back, and I can still give back to student athletes, which I did. I had oversight of most of the sports. So I had really direct relationships with the head coaches, was at a number of home events. So I really got to work with the student athletes and started to embrace the administrative role. Again, coaching was my greatest passion, though. And then my final college campus stop was an athletic director at a community college.
Up in the Pacific Northwest, correct? So you were out of it and then you went back to being on a campus.
Yeah, I actually, after 6 years at Nova in Fort Lauderdale, I moved to Portland, Oregon, to be with my partner, and was, quote unquote, again, retired for 2 years. But within those 2 years, I did some consulting for a college that was going from NAIA to Division II. I did some site rep work for the NCAA. So I stayed involved. And then a friend of mine said, hey, there's an AD job at this community college. So I applied, got an interview, and got the job, and was there for 2 years. And then
I
you
stole
called.
you away. One of my best hires ever. One of my best decisions ever, I must say. I want to go back to when you were at Nova, and I want to lead with the fact we have so many women come to us and they want to advance. They want to get more experience, and they may feel a little pigeonholed in their positions. And what you did there in serving on, the NCAA Women's Basketball Committee, and you chaired that, and tennis, and talk about your experience on the national level, and then really how that expanded your network and expanded your professional development.
Let me tell you, that was huge. When I had the opportunity to be on the Division II Women's Basketball Committee, I jumped. I mean, I remember the day that I was asked to be on it, and it was one of the highlights because it got me back into that arena, so to speak. And it put a lot more on my plate, especially when I became the national chair of the D2 committee. But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And you're right. It does grow your network, your community of people, both male, female, coaching, admin. And it was one of my most cherished positions. And I was able to work directly and learn from some really, who I consider mentors at the NCAA, Roberta Page and Tina Craw. I got to work closely with them, and it really was, for me, it was refreshing. Again, it was a lot of work, but it was refreshing. And I would highly encourage coaches, administrators out there to dive into any committee work that they have available. And after that, I was asking to be on other committees, and you make time for what's important, right? And even though I had a lot on my plate at Nova, you make time. And being a D2 women's basketball chair, I also was on the committee with tennis. I was a site rep for Division II volleyball, and even was on committees on the college campus that I worked in, hiring committees. So yes, I think getting those type of roles, committee work is really important, because you learn, you grow another community of people, and I think it also helps with time management, because you've got more on your plate.
Speaking of time management and making time for what's important, while you were doing all of these things and chairing the women's basketball committee, I do want to talk about your mom, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Well, I think there's so many lessons to be learned in the journey that you walked. If you could sort of set the stage for our listeners of your mom's cancer diagnosis and journey and what that meant to you.
Yeah. So 2010, February of 2010, I was actually I was the site rep for a home basketball game, and my phone kept blowing up. And I was like, why are my brothers calling me? All of them were calling me. So finally I stepped away, and, when you're overseeing a home event, you want to be there in case something happens, right? But I stepped out and took the call, and, fell to my knees basically, because I found out that it was February 10th or February 5th, 2010, that she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Fast forward that year. So I was associate AD. I was the D2 women's basketball chair. And in September, our head women's basketball coach was fired. And the AD came to me and said, hey, I don't know what else to do. Would you coach the women's basketball team this year? Well, I hadn't coached in 13 years. But that wasn't the important piece. I knew I could pick back up. The important piece was that I'd already had a lot on my plate, and I was trying to get home to Iowa every month to spend time with my mom. So I was really torn at the time. It was like, okay, here I've got this personal situation here. I've already got a lot on my plate, but I also know that there are a group of 13 student athletes here who I've gotten to know and care about, and I couldn't leave them hanging either. So I put my Superwoman cape on again and said, let's do this. I did call my mom first, and I said, here, Mom, this is what's been presented. And she's like, Angela, that's my real name. I just gave it up because that's what she always called me. You love coaching. You absolutely need to do this. Don't worry about me. And so I did. And it truly was the most trying time for me, but it was also one of growth. It was one of joy and sadness at the same time. It was just, there were a lot of emotions. And truth be told, the coaching part was a good distraction for me as well. So yeah, it was very unexpected, but everything was unexpected that year. Finding out that she had cancer and being presented with the role to coach the team. So there was some things that I learned. What's important? What is really important to you? I had to ask myself that question. There were often times I was going, I was probably running on 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And self-care, we talk about self-care. That really wasn't my forte in that year. But I learned, breathe, share with others. I again tried to put things on my shoulders, and if I could give any bit of advice when you feel like you really need to let people kind of take the layers off and let people know what you're going through. It's really important. And again, it's okay to ask for help.
And there's no playbook for that, right? It's like this is real life, and coaches are facing this with their student athletes. Coaches are facing this within their own families, and there's no playbook that tells us how to do these things or that walks us through this is what to expect. This is how I handled it. And the more we can share these stories and learn how other people faced adversity, I think the better.
Oh, absolutely. And there is no playbook. It's like you wake up one day and reality hits, right? And you can't get, when you think you've got everything under control, that's when life really throws you a blow, and you can pick yourself up, but you can't, again, I can't stress enough, you can't do it alone. And it's okay to show that you're struggling. It's okay to be vulnerable. And like I said, you really have to take time for you. And if you type A and you worry about other people, that's hard to do. But you're right. There is no playbook, and every situation is different. And that was quite a year for me personally.
When you look back at the past 30 years, do you have any regrets?
It's a good question. I just got done talking about that year. And I think, to me, that's interesting you would ask that, because to me, regret is the worst feeling that anybody can have. I feel like I'm gone through a lot. Probably my only regret, my biggest regret, is not getting home in time when my mom passed. That certainly was it weighs heavy on me still today. And had I not been coaching, had I not taken that job of coaching the team for that year, I would have been. So, that's probably a lesson learned, or something that I should share with people is, find out again what is important to you and make sure that you pay attention to that. And don't try to be everything to everyone. That was my biggest regret. But the other pieces, just more lessons learned than regrets.
I think about what must be going through your mind at this point, and looking back at, you have served so many different roles and impacted so many different women. What transition for you was the hardest in all of that, right? Head coach, assistant coach, head coach, administration, back to coaching. What transition was the hardest, and why?
Honestly, I think the transition out of coaching was the most difficult for me, without question. Again, that's what I loved. I can't tell you, I've never had a job that, like I said, the best way to explain it is, when I was coaching, I didn't even want to go to bed. I wanted to stay up and watch film and break down film and get ready for the next day and go through the recruiting list. And I never had to set an alarm, because I just couldn't wait to wake up in the morning, because I, again, tackle everything that coaching would throw at you. I loved it. So I think just the transition away from coaching for me was the most difficult. And, I look at the coaches today that we get to work with, and I'm like, wow, even when I talk to them on the phone, it's just, you get this energy, right? Because there is no other job, to me, on this earth that can give you that type of satisfaction. And so, yeah, long story short, transitioning out of coaching was the most difficult.
Well, in our work, we do connect. We do hear from so many of our coaches possibly questioning if this is the profession for them, or they're maybe facing burnout or a difficult legal battle on campus, and they're not sure how to navigate it. And oftentimes they reach out to us. So what's your advice for these women that reach out to you, and how do you encourage them to stay in the profession?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, Megan, because that is happening. And the number of different scenarios that have come my way, and I'm sure your way as well, and other women on our staff, it amazes me. It's like it's just recycling, right? Because coaches call me and tell me that they're dealing with a student athlete who has gone to the athletic director, and they're dealing with an assistant coach or a head coach that's trying to maybe undermine them. And it's the same. things haven't changed. These are the same issues that coaches of all levels, genders deal with. And, probably not to pick apart each one individually, but I go back to communication. You have to communicate with each other. I think as a society, we don't do a good job communicating with each other. And it's certainly something I had to learn as well. But communication with your staff, communication with your student athletes to really promote that open line, I really feel can maybe head off some of the issues. We get so involved with everything that's going on, and we forget to really make sure that we're talking with each other and listening as well. But it's tough today. The landscape has changed, and I think the landscape has changed from even 10 years ago. Technology, our cell phones, they've become more important than relationships, right? Like you can't. When I was on most recently as an athletic director, I had to walk from one end of campus to the other for a meeting, and every student, even faculty that I would pass, they were all on their phones looking down. So I feel like technology has played a big part in the landscape and how it's changed. Social media, of course, recruiting rules have changed. Youth sports have changed. So I know I kind of went off track from your original question, but it led me down that hole.
And it has changed. And I think, the world that we live in today is very different. It's going to continue to be very different. The pace at which, especially at the collegiate level, athletics is moving is just something we've never seen before.
No doubt. And, I talk about if I were to ever get back into coaching, I know that I have learned a great deal. And I know that I would be a great either head coach or assistant coach again, just because of all of my experience and what I've learned. But my big fear is not really fear, but hesitation would be you're still dealing with people, right? We're still dealing with people. It's just, you have to mold to where we're at today with society. Again, technology, how specific youth sports have gotten. And you're right, it's at a much more rapid pace now. Everything is right now.
So as you know, for fun, we end every episode with rapid fire questions. You ready?
I think so. Are we still sitting at a coffee shop?
We are. I promise it's going to be fun. All right.
Okay.
Number one.
Let's go.
Favorite golf course you've played?
Oh my gosh, you're killing me, Smalls. That's a lot. In this country, maybe there's a place called Sage Valley, that's designed after Augusta down south, and maybe Castle Rock in Ireland, out of country. One.
Golf course you look forward to playing one day in retirement?
Pebble Beach, without question.
Okay. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh boy, Proud Mary,
I
Tina
knew
Turner.
That was coming. I think we've seen it. You moonlight that before a couple times, right?
Anytime you want, Megan.
What's the thing you're going to miss the most when you retire?
Just daily interaction with awesome women. I can't tell you how great the staff is small. There's only 5 of us, but just that daily interaction, whether it's a quick phone call, needing something, or the daily interaction with the women on staff.
Gone but
for
never
sure.
forgotten, my friend, right?
Yep. Well, as Lisa lured me to Portland, only a phone call away.
Last question. I couldn't end this episode not talk about your unwavering love for the Hawkeyes. So if we snuck up on you on a Saturday afternoon in your basement watching Iowa Hawkeye football, what snack are we going to find by your side?
Yeah. That's a dangerous question. Depends if the game is at 11 a.m. or at 5 p.m. Well, as soon as I get these braces off, it'll be chips and salsa.
Oh, yes. Chips and salsa. Of course. Your love for salt.
Yeah. Love it.
And it's been a fun ride all these years. I know I speak on behalf of our board, our staff, our entire community in saying that we're going to miss you and thank you so much for all you've done.
This has been great. I really appreciate the time spent here, the 45, 50 minutes, and obviously the last 3 years just working alongside you and alongside thousands of women coaches out there. It's been my honor and
what
pleasure.
You've done for our community, thank you, would never do it justice. So we have such gratitude for what you've given. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. I look forward to continuing. So again, I'm only a phone call away.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Do you love reading and connecting with other awesome women? Sign up now to be in our newly launched book club. More information can be found on our website at WeCOACHsports.org. For our listeners, we want to hear from you. Share your comments on Twitter at WeCOACH and at Wisp Sports, or on Facebook at WeCOACH Sports and at Wisp Sports. The show notes for this episode can be found on our show page at wispsports.com. Make sure to subscribe to Wisp Sports in your podcast app to catch each new episode dropping every other Thursday. Until next time, all sports, one voice, we coach.